Let's be real. In any web app, things are going to break. It's just a fact of life. So the real question isn't if they'll break, but how you're going to handle it when they do. Today, we're diving deep into a fundamental challenge for any Express.js developer, managing user mistakes and server meltdowns without the whole app just falling apart. It's a tale of two very different errors, and thankfully, there's one elegant solution to master them both. When you think about it, errors really fall into two big buckets. On one side, you have the user making a mistake, like trying to find a page that just isn't there. We'll call that the lost request. And on the other side, you've got something much scarier. Your server has a meltdown because of a bug in your code. That's the server meltdown. The source material for this explainer had a fantastic way of looking at this, using a bit of magic. A 404 error is like a student wandering into the Hogwarts library looking for a spell that doesn't exist. It's a dead end, sure, but it's not a disaster. A 500 error, though, that's a spell backfiring right in a professor's face. Yeah, that's the kind of catastrophic failure that can bring the whole castle down if you're not careful. So how do we deal with all this magical chaos? What's the plan? Are we supposed to wrap every single route handler in a giant try-catch block? No way. Can you even imagine the nightmare of maintaining that code? Thankfully, Express gives us a much more elegant, much cleaner, centralized solution. And this right here is the core idea behind Express error handling. And honestly, it's brilliant. Instead of cluttering up all of your routes with repetitive error checks, you create one single global safety net. It's like setting up a giant trampoline under your entire application. If anything falls, this one piece of middleware will catch it, keeping your code clean and your user's experience predictable. Okay, so before we get into all the things that can go wrong, let's quickly look at what happens when everything goes right. We call this the happy path. A request comes in, it flows smoothly through any middleware, it finds the correct route handler, and a successful response goes out. Perfect. The whole point of what we're doing is to make sure that when this perfect flow gets interrupted, it doesn't just explode, it fails gracefully. So what happens when a user tries to hit a URL that just doesn't exist? Well, what Express does is it goes down the list of all the routes you set up, one by one, trying to find a match. And if it gets to the very end and finds nothing, the request literally falls through all of your routes and lands in a special handler that we're going to place at the very bottom. Okay, but this is the scary one. What if an error happens inside a route that was found? This isn't a lost user, this is a bug in our code, and if we don't handle it, boom, the whole server could go down. But with Express, the moment an error is thrown, it hits the brakes immediately. It doesn't continue, it just jumps directly to our ultimate safety net, the global error handler. Okay, so we've got the lay of the land. Let's dig into our first character in this story, the lost request, or what you and I know as a 404 error. Now here's something you really got to understand about the way Express thinks. To Express, a 404 isn't really an error in the traditional sense. It's not like your server broke, it's just the end of the road. The user asked for something, you looked everywhere, and it's just not there. And that little distinction is super important because it changes how we set up the handler. So if it's not a true error, how do we deal with it? Well, we use something called a catch-all middleware. The name says it all, right? It's a piece of code that sits at the very, very end of your route definitions, and its only job is to catch any request that's fallen past everything else. And in code, it looks just like any other piece of Express middleware you've ever written. You've got your standard 3 arguments, rec, res, and next. Nothing scary here, it's business as usual. And what do we do inside it? It's super simple, 2 steps. Step 1, you set the HTTP status to 404 to tell the browser not found. Step 2, you send back a nice clean JSON response so the client knows what happened. And that's it, 404's handled. All right, so handling lost users is one thing. But now let's talk about the big one, the real danger, the server meltdown, the 500 error. This isn't a job for our regular catch-all. No, for this, we need a special piece of gear, the global error handling middleware. Think of this as the ultimate safety net. It's the last line of defense. If an unexpected exception happens anywhere, this is the thing that stops your entire app from just crashing and burning. So how does Express know this one is so special? It's like a secret handshake. Look closely at the function signature. Error, rec, res, next. See that? 4 arguments, not the usual 3. That very first argument, error, is everything. The moment Express sees a middleware function with 4 arguments, it flags it internally. It knows, okay, this is where I send the problems. So when an error lands here, you have 2 jobs, and both are absolutely critical. Job number 1, you log the heck out of that error. Console.error, error.stack. Get all the gory details. This is for you, the developer, so you can figure out what went wrong later. Job number 2, you send a very simple, very generic error message back to the user. Something like, oops, something went wrong. You never send the details of the error back to the client. That is a huge security hole. All right, theory time is over. Let's see how all this actually works in practice. We're going to fire up the Hogwarts API from the source material and run a few tests. Okay, scenario 1, the perfect student. They make a totally valid by-the-book request to get /spells. And just as we'd expect, it works perfectly. The request hits the right route, gets a 200 OK status, and a list of spells comes back. Notice our fancy new error handlers? They don't even get involved. They're just chilling on the sidelines, waiting for trouble. All right, next up. A student is trying to find a spell that's definitely not in the books. They make a request to spells/unknown. What's going to happen? Well, Express looks for a route that matches and finds nothing. So the request just falls all the way down, right into our 404 catch-all handler. And boom, we get a nice 404 not found with our clean JSON message. It works exactly as designed. Perfect. Okay, now for the grand finale, the moment of truth. We've set up a special route /spell/error that's designed to blow up. This is our spell backfiring scenario. Let's see if our safety net can catch it. And look at that, it works. The route throws an error, but instead of the server crashing, Express immediately jumps to our special 4-argument error handler. The client gets a 500 error message, and here's the most important part. Our application is still up and running. The chaos has been contained. Okay, that was awesome. So let's wrap this up and turn what we've learned into a simple checklist, your own little spellbook for powerful error handling. Rule 1, don't scatter try-catch blocks everywhere. Centralize your logic in one global error handler. Rule 2, use a separate regular middleware at the very end of your routes, just for 404s. Rule 3, remember the difference. 400-level errors are the client's fault. 500-level errors are your fault. Rule 4, on the server, log everything. You need those details to debug. And Rule 5, and I can't stress this enough, never ever let those debug details leak out to the client. Keep it generic. Stick to these, and your apps will be so much more stable and secure. So there you have it. Your server is now a fortress, safe from the chaos of unexpected errors. But it does leave you with one more thought, doesn't it? This whole system is fantastic for the errors you don't see coming. But what about the ones you can and should predict? You know, like a user submitting a form with a bad password or an invalid email. How do you handle those? Well, that's a whole other kind of magic, and a story for another time.